Hello, my name is Gadokran, and you are welcome to the Social on the Mountains podcast, streaming live from the Ebri Mountains, Ghana, West Africa. And on the fourth segment of the first episode of this show, we call it the Digital Hot Seat. And today, on my Digital Hot Seat, I have Princewill from Nigeria. So, for those of you that don't know Princewill is one of the most sought after digital marketing professionals and growth executives in Nigeria and Africa at large. Nice to meet you, Princewill.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
I'm well, Princewill. I'm well. Thank you. And how has it been for you? First of all, I want you to introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners.
Okay, so my name is Princewill Ejirika. I am a digital and growth marketing expert with experience across e-commerce, FMCG companies, and I've been in digital marketing space and start working with startups for over 10 years. So that's just me.
Oh, that's good. And that's great. So, with a decade experience in digital marketing, what has been the experience so far? And first of all, how did you get into it?
So I got into digital marketing sometime around 2012. So before then, post-university days, I spent lots of time on different social media. I was always on either MySpace, some chatting app called Mic33, different social media networks and platforms that were on there, right? Including some calls to go, and then Facebook later popped up and all of that. So I was really just trying to figure out how those works and trying to interact with people. And then I built up like a huge community of followers on Facebook. Someday I saw this job for digital marketing. Then I applied to it, and part of my selling point was, hey, see, I built like an online community of 200,000 people, and the guy was like, oh, we are the one for the job. And that was how I kind of got into it and learned the ropes from there and started taking different digital marketing courses. I think one of my first and most important courses then was like Hootsuite certificate, because I think Hootsuite was the biggest tool back then, and one of the most,
shout out to Hootsuite, man. Hootsuite has been very instrumental. Even me in my early stages, where you could just go to Hootsuite, go to their resources page, download you guys, access free courses. Shout out to Hootsuite. Hootsuite has been very, 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 instrumental. So let's proceed.
Yeah. I think Hootsuite kind of laid down the foundation for many others to kind of build on in terms of resources, content creation. I think they had an excellent blog for social media managers. They had a great tool, and also their training course, right, was also like very relevant. I think they were kind of the pioneers, if to say, of social media platforms or tools that kind of offered courses for professionals to take and be certified in that category and for their product, right? I think they were kind of the pioneers of that, and they really did this well. So I think they made they really had impact in the industry in that way.
I get it.
Yeah,
so basically, that's how you started, right?
Yes.
And for me, the most interesting aspect of your story in terms of how you started is that the fact that you mentioned that in the early days of the social media boom, you were able to build a very strong community of, I mean, followers, and
Yes.
based on that, businesses felt like, or your early employers felt like, look, you are the right person for the job. Now, it's quite instructive to note that in as much as social business and digital marketing has evolved, there are some employers that still think that the key criteria in defining who a social media manager is that that person should have so many followers. So sometimes you have companies trying to think in that direction. I mean, even though it has evolved. So, I mean, it's still quite interesting that even at the early stage, uh, businesses or employers still had those kind of mindsets. I mean, towards it. But then, first of all, let's look at even at that stage how you were able to build that huge community. You mentioned 20,000 or 200,000. I mean, which is which?
200,000.
Two
So it
hundred
was pretty
thousand.
much,
How are you able to
yes.
do it at the early days then? Because even now, building a community of 200,000 followers is not a joke. Even with the availability of having paid options available, it's still not easy. So how are you able to do it at that time, at the early days of, I mean, social media, where even the audience boom even wasn't even that much?
Yeah. So I would say this, right? It was really just being able to see that there was a community of people interested in a particular social media network, and and just kind of creating a page, and it kind of just grew really organically. I would say it's more about luck and timing of it. I just identified that, see, this platform is one of the biggest things that youth kind of use to communicate at this point. And these guys need to be able to interact with each other outside of this place, right, on a social media platform. And I just saw the opportunity and I kind of created it. So this kind of reminded me of one of Gary Vaynerchuk's story. He mentioned that back in the days that he used to, when he had a wine selling company, right? He used to run
Yeah,
Google
yeah,
ads, and he
yeah.
used to get,
And shout out to
he used to get,
Gary V. He's an inspiration
yes,
into the community.
yeah, big one, big one. I'm a really big fan of his. So he said that he used to get clicks for like a cent or so, like when Google ads were just starting, like kind of that ability to latch on to be like the early stage
Early adopters of the
adopter.
platform.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, and I think that, I mean, even now at the strategic level, this whole idea in terms of taking on to new channel opportunities and making sure that at the early stage of deployment of new channels, brands and organizations are able to quickly respond to it and grow with it before others join on board, or before there's a lot of regulation and policies that will first of all tighten these channels, is something that I think as brands, businesses, marketers, we need to take advantage of. And I think it's an interesting one. So for me, the key lesson in terms of how you were able to take advantage on the early stages of social media to grow that huge, I mean, following, as Gary Vee has also mentioned it, for me it's also shown a very key strategic direction that channels will continue to evolve. Today we have Facebook, we have TikTok, Clubhouse is also in the corner. Now the question to brands and marketers is that how are they able to spot and launch on onto these new channels and grow with it at the early stage before it become very popular? Because you and I know that at the early stages things are more easy. And example, at the early stage of Facebook, you didn't see a lot of decline in organic reaction, but now you see them, I mean, actually happening, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
first of all, I mean, one other thing that I want to know, or our viewers want to know from you is so far, what do you think work, and what do you think doesn't work?
There are so many answers to this, right? But I would let me make it simple. I think it's really about understanding your customers.